What is up, guys? So you may have seen in a previous video I counted down a list of the 10 most overpowered characters in Street Fighter history. If you haven't already, check that video out. But in today's video we're going the other way. We're counting down the 10 worst, most underpowered, most low tier, garbage tier, dumpster fire characters in Street Fighter history. So let's hop right into it and start with the list at number 10. And at number 10, we are going with Rainbow Mika from Street Fighter Alpha 3. She is just not a good character. This was the debut of the character and a pretty underwhelming debut. Pretty weak normals, you know, no real safe ways to make anything happen. She kind of has to rely on crazy guesses. And what I think is really funny is now, if you look at Rainbow Mika in Street Fighter V, she is such a force to be reckoned with. So if you want an interesting experience, go back and try her in Street Fighter Alpha 3 and see just how garbage she was back then and how much they improved her for Street Fighter 5, because the difference is honestly pretty astounding. Next up at number 9, we've got Zangief from Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I felt kind of bad putting anyone from Super Turbo on this list because, you know, even the worst characters I think can kind of hang. But Zangief has a lot of problems, especially since a lot of the best characters in this game are fireball characters, you know, like Ryu, Chun-Li, Sagat, Dalsim. Zangief just struggles so much against these characters. It can be impossible sometimes, it feels like, to get in with him. But the nice thing is that once you do get in, he does do a lot of damage. He does have a great 360 throw, so he can make stuff happen. But, you know, when you play him, you just feel pretty sluggish compared to the rest of the cast, and it can be really tough against the top tiers. So he's number 9. At number 8, we've got one of the worst characters in Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, 12. He's just kind of not great overall. He has an air dash, which is kind of interesting, but he does very little damage. He's not very safe on anything. He has weak normals, so he's just kind of a bummer to play. The only real nice thing about him is that he's got that X copy super, so you can turn into the opponent for a little bit and then, you know, play as a good character for just a brief amount of time. So that's always nice. But other than that, 12 is pretty awful. At number 7, we've got a Street Fighter V character, F.A.N.G. I feel like I've harped on F.A.N.G. in a lot of my videos, but he is just bad. He's just, he's not a good character. It's a shame, because I think he's kind of funny and like an interesting design, but yeah, you know, his V skill is pretty useless. The poison just doesn't do much in a match. He's kind of this weird mishmash of zoning and rushdown, but he's not that great at either. There's a reason that any of the top players who played F.A.N.G. pretty much have dropped him by now, which is a bummer, but maybe he'll get some buffs in the future. You never know. Number 6, we've got Birdie from Street Fighter Alpha 2. Another character that saw a lot of improvements in Street Fighter V, but in Alpha 2, he's definitely one of the worst characters. You know, he's kind of like an E-Honda type where, you know, he's got a charge move on the ground and he's got a command throw, but overall he's just very weak. He's slow, he has a hard time getting in. Fireballs, again, are very strong in this game. And his super is also kind of weak. It's the jumping throw thing. So yeah, overall just not a good character. He can't really hang with the top tiers who are really powerful in this game. At number 5, we've got Hakan from Super Street Fighter 4. Now, they did give Hakan some decent buffs in the later versions of Street Fighter 4, but in the first version he was in, Super Street Fighter 4, he was kind of hot garbage. He did not start the round with oil, which is kind of a big deal. You had to manually oil up at the beginning of the round if you wanted it. Oil was very unsafe. He didn't really have anything that was too broken. You know, his command throws have really, really short range without oil, and he's a lot more unsafe. The only real thing he had going for him was his ultras. Both were pretty good, but it wasn't quite enough to bring him out of the bottom tiers. But he's a funny character. He's cool at least, so at least there's that. Next up at number 4, we've got another Third Strike character, one who's even worse than 12, Sean. Kind of legendarily, F.A.N.G. was really strong in Street Fighter 3 Second Impact, and they just destroyed him in the follow-up Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. He just doesn't really have anything. His supers are bad, or if they're not bad, they take way too much meter. His specials are not good. His normals, pretty much nothing. He's not very fast. It's just a bummer. I don't recommend playing Sean unless you really want to troll your friends. He's pretty good at that. Plus, he can throw basketballs, so, you know, he's got that going for him. But other than that, very, very bad character. Alright, the number 3 worst character is Dan from Capcom vs. S.N.K. 2. Now you can maybe argue if CVS 2 belongs on this list if it counts as a Street Fighter game, but I think it counts. And one thing you can't argue is that Dan is very, very bad in CVS 2. You know, he's just not really got anything going for him. Terrible fireball with no range, no combos really to speak of. Just kind of nothing. I mean, that's half the point. He's kind of meant to be like a joke character, but holy moly, he is practically unplayable in CVS 2, in my opinion. Number 2 worst character is also Dan from Street Fighter Alpha 3. Dan originated in the Street Fighter Alpha series, so I think this is fitting. And holy moly, he's even worse in this game. That fireball range is just hilariously short. Again, nothing really going for him other than he's hilarious. For a lot of people, that's enough reason to play him, so I guess you can't really take that away. But yeah, pretty terrible. And the number 1 worst character in Street Fighter history is Dan for a 3rd time. You know, I thought it would be funny maybe if all of the top 3 were Dan, because he really is just that bad. So this time, we're talking about Street Fighter 4 Dan. In my opinion, the best incarnation of Dan in terms of him being interesting. You know, let's talk about it. He's got so many taunts. He's got 3 taunts. Standing, crouching, and jumping are all different taunts. How cool is that? He's even got the legendary Super Taunt, which uses all your meter and does absolutely no damage. It's amazing. He's got one of the worst ultras in the game. He's got no link combos, really. He can't link off of his light kicks or his light punches, which is pretty necessary in Street Fighter 4. So yeah, terrible. But I can't lie, I love playing Dan in Street Fighter 4. He is so much fun because, you know, he's not good. In fact, he's terrible. But it's just so fun when you hit people with Dan, or even when you beat people with Dan. You can feel great about it because you know you're doing it with the worst character ever. So that is the list, guys. Thank you very, very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if there are other lists that you think I should take on, maybe other game franchises that you'd like me to talk about the characters in, maybe Marvel, that's something I'm thinking about. But anyway, again, thank you for watching, and have a good one.